Hello, this is the Harboring Light. I'm Mary. I give a conservative take about the world around me. So this episode is the wrap up of me talking about fan theories. As I mentioned in Monday's episode, this episode is all about Parks and Recs. So I'm gonna break it down where I'm talking about the characters from a realistic point of view and then get into the fan theories and everything else. All right, so here we go. Okay, so Parks and Recreation, is a very interesting concept of a show to me. So, it was going on along the lines of the same as far as the shooting style, as far as filming it from that documentary tour point of view that Ricky Gervais greatly embraced with the essence of capturing the day-to-day life of what it's like to be an office worker, particularly in the UK, from his point of view of everything that he experienced working in offices. And then this linking into the American version, The Office with Michael Scott and all of that. So we're leading into with Parks and Recreation, in the lives of people who work for the government. And so with the particular cast here, we go with Mark Brandanowitz as Tom Haverford, lovingly said. And then, here we go with Tom Haverford, Chris Traeger, Jerry Gergich, and Donna Meagle, Ron Swanson, Leslie Knope, April Loggett, Ben Wyatt, Andy Dwyer, and Ann Perkins. Now, it's very interesting. So there's a YouTuber, and, I appreciate some of his takes, particularly when he's talking about television shows from the 90s, me being a 90s kid growing up there. And he is quite interesting, and you guys should check out his work. And his name is T1J. Now, I want to add more depth into what he was saying. So, particularly with Mark Brandanowitz. So, all right. So when you look at Mark Brandanowitz's character, the T1J focus in on, and I'm not quite sure if other YouTubers have done this, but I've seen other YouTubers focus in on the aspect of Ann Perkins and her narcissistic behavior, and Leslie Knope, and all of these kind of things. And it's quite interesting with Mark Brandanowitz only focusing in on the negative aspects that he carries. So the aspect of, again, with the narcissism, and again with the aspect of arrested development, his character never really seeing past the adolescent phase of what is the bigger picture in his life. But I would beg the contrary to this, because when you get deeper and deeper into his character set, you see that he is growing, and as a person, to the point of realizing when he gets together with Ann Perkins that marriage is on the table for him. He even proposed that to her, and she with her own agenda she just didn't accept it. And so it's quite interesting because he also points out the flaws of people, and particularly with Ann Perkins and Leslie Knope. Them pointing out their flaws. For instance, for Ann Perkins, it was one particular character, Justin Theroux, and when he came into the mix of the show, he pointed out the real honest reason of how she is a person that's always, and particularly seeing the aspect of the next opportunity. So, and particularly with not seeing everything within the moment. And because Mark, he saw it for what it is. He, why are you just infatuated? You're still, hung up on this guy, but you say that you care and you love for your best friend, Leslie Knope, but you don't want to set them on a date, and they're both single. So, the real aspects of what is that all about. And even Mark, when with Leslie Knope's career, he fought for her, and he stood up and stood his ground where she couldn't. So, for instance, there's this one particular episode where it needs some back about, particularly with, a park, and particularly with zoning issues and things like that from my memory. And he backed her for calling a favor that out of help for her, even though it seems like it's in his best interest. He's really taking a leap of faith on her because he sees the potential in her. And then I have a different point. Me and my husband, both have different points. Now I'm getting to the phase about the work aspect and the work field along the lines of working for the government. So, okay, so the real aspect of working for the government. So, from my husband's point of view, he used to work as a police officer, and it's quite interesting. We were discussing and talking about the aspects of everything of parks and recreation, and particularly from his point of view, the aspect of gossiping and getting to everyone's concerns is a real element that happens in working for the government, particularly with Donna and Jerry, particularly with the rapport that they have about Donna saying, "Did you hear this? And did you hear that?" And particularly with everyone being concerned with personal matters of all of the co-workers. And then Jerry Gergis, to a lesser extent, looking out for the well-being of people, and from my point of view, having a genuine, heartfelt concern for his co-workers, but still having that aspect of being in that you get, for the lack of a better term, of being part of the the sweet aspects of being a part of a small town where everybody knows you and everybody knows where you come. For the most part, if you grew up all your life in a small town, know where you came from and all of these things. But that can be very daunting at times. And with the aspect of Tom Haverford, the realistic aspect of taking a job as a starting point to get to what you really want to do in life. So you see this showcased a lot in his character as he's trying to start his media mogul business. He's trying to start that's the first business he's trying to start, his cologne business, and then he eventually winds up getting success with renting clothes and then being a restaurateur. And so, from my point of view of what I experienced working in, it was a strange sector and interesting, and I'm very appreciative of the experience where working with where I mean strange. Not I think that's not the best term to say. It was very interesting and good, and with the bad aspect of it, it was very even in the bad. It was a lot of great life lessons in the aspect of merging government with education, and that the aspects of meeting quotas, the aspect of being and with meeting quotas with pushback of how the quotas don't get met on a normal sense of terms when the quote unquote red tape of bureaucracy or tongue tied that when the red tape of that gets involved in everything with the politics of what is as far as what can be moved forward with projects, and then what it can just be something that's just pushed aside. And I experienced that, and that's really something to wrap your head around, particularly when you are invested a lot into something and it just takes, you can't really get a straight answer. That's where I'm getting at. And then it, goes along the chain of command of where is this coming from. And so with, as far as fan theories are concerned, I think it's quite interesting with the aspect of everything being in the same universe, particularly in the NBC universe. So I'm just going to give a little interesting tidbit before I get into the nuts, the nuts and bolts, let me start over again. The nuts and bolts about particular fan theories of the show. So, allegedly, there is a fan theory that says that Ben Wyatt is of the same universe of Friends. And particularly this one episode where Monica is talking to Rachel, and Monica haphazardly mentions the name Ben, and particularly Ben Wyatt. And Screen Rant, from what I'm going off memory about it. So they broke it down to say that Rachel had an encounter. Rachel, that it's a fan theory that Rachel might have had an encounter with a guy named Ben Wyatt, and at the time Ben Wyatt would have been about 26 or so, is what they say. And being in New York, it would be they pin him to be around. The reason why he's around in New York is for a particular comic convention. And then they had an encounter, and then how this leaks into the aspect of the rapport that he has with Leslie and everything else in the Parks and Recreation universe, and that how they all connect to one another. But it also goes back to the reality situation that it's a coincidence and they just happen to be playing around with the character's name and that it's not really connected. But that's quite interesting to think about. So, all right, so here we go. Let's get into it. The aspects of the fan theories of the show. So, the symbols on Ron Swanson will are directions to his fortune. So Ron Swan, his will, the symbols on his will are directions to his fortune. To make that clear, what I said. So Ron Swanson is a rugged outdoorsman and someone who would. Okay, let's start off again. Ron Swanson is a rugged outdoorsman and someone who wouldn't trust traditional banks to hold his money. That is why it makes sense that his life's fortune isn't tied down to a bank account. So Redditor Proof Rock 451 decoded the symbols on Ron's will, and they appear to be directions to the exact location of where his fortune is buried. And I think it's quite interesting, about Ron Swanson's character, how he is the heart and through of the aspect of the nature of the libertarian, and he makes it quite clear of how, and makes a mockery of the government all the time, of how he says that it is unnecessary and then it can be offset by a certain point. And then it's also a cosmic comedic joke how his perspectives about the government is a means of a reason when Ben Wyatt comes into the seasons and is assessing everything from a accountant point of view, that he is necessary because he saves the department so much money by his upheaval against the government. So the fact that he detests the government is what the government, from an accounting point of view, is feasible to keep him there in his job. It's quite interesting. So here we go, where everyone insults Jerry because he's the only one who's actually happy. So it's a Reddit fan theory that says the Jerry is the person that makes sense. Everyone's life on the show is filtered with drama, heartache, and uncertainty. Jerry has it all figured out. He's in his dream career with a gorgeous wife and beautiful children. He's also a painter and pianist with a point of view of this in which he is grounded in a sense of reality. And I think that's quite interesting because you see that aspect of everybody is just strutting, being there, and they can't wait to do something else or be something else. And it's just really interesting how the different aspects, the different characters of Leslie and Jerry Gergich point out the reality situation of when you love what you do, and then when you have your goals in mind, how that centers around how you perceive your job. So to add on to this, Jerry is mentioning that, I hope everything goes on in place and all of this because I'm, he was mentioning about his pension, his retirement, and he's having that anchor to bring him back to what's important, having that peace of mind and going on to the next step. And his family was always the center around everything that he did as far as the job role that he had in government. And it's quite interesting. He also pointed out to Tom Haverford, he said, my point of view of how to get through the job is do everything the exact same way, and it'll help you get through it. And that was his motto that he got when he first received the job, and it's quite interesting. So Leslie Knope is secretly wealthy. So Leslie Knope, with this fan theory, says that the Eagleton, she's technically an Eagleton, and is actually pretty rich. She certainly, and then they go to the aspect of how much she spends. And Leslie paid for Anne's trip to London, frequently buys people gifts, donated $1,000 to the recreation center, and even filled a pit that she couldn't get funded through the local government. Some naysayers mention the time she got pregnant, and Ben was worried about making ends meet, but it's possible she kept her wealth a secret. So there's a fan theory that Andy Dwyer is a secret genius. So Redditor Mr. General believes that it's all an act. However, Andy is actually a secret genius. So avid watchers of Parks and Recreation know that Andy got a 1,500 on his SATs and 100% on his written police exam. That's also his career track. So he went from homelessness to having a globe-trotting career and becoming a local celebrity as a children's entertainer. So, all right, so the aspect of this fan theory about Andy Dwyer being a genius, I see it as it's taking on the aspect of a person. Let me go back to this. So the real realities of how a good personality, a good mental well-being, how that can help you with the aspect of moving forward in your life. And then being earnest, at the same time about your goals. So, all right, so, Tom Haverford, for the most part, it was pretty much centered around selfishness of the things that he was wanting and needing as far as his particular career goals. And then in the end, he kind of had the foresight of what really matters. But Andy Dwyer would beg that he had his earnest intention to where it's still childlike, for the most part. But April Ludgate saw the best potential in him and helped him and to bring a more depth side out of him to where he saw his best potential and he continued to believe in himself. And the merging together of this, it helps to develop his character even more, and then helps to develop April Ludgate's character. So there's a fan theory that Jerry is a sleeper agent. So a Reddit fan theory with the title The Lucky Gal suggests that the reason why Jerry is so cringeworthy at work but so accomplished at home is because he's hiding the fact that he's a secret agent. So says his family life is zero drama and it's something straight out of Pleasantville, and it's a alpha show. And one episode where characters dig up dirt on each other's past, Jerry is terrified about what they will find. Why? At one point, Ben even suspected that Jerry's wife was a spy who married Jerry for citizenship. You know, the couple on this fact that plenty of spies have been caught working for the government before, and it's a slam dunk from their point of view. And there's a fan theory that Ann is in the witness protection program. There's a reason Ann Perkins seems like such a familiar character on Parks and Recreation. So this ties into the aspect of the NBC universe connecting itself. So it's because we've seen her before in The Office. So the fan theory suggests that Ann Perkins is actually Karen Filippelli, I believe that's the pronunciation of her last name. Forgive me if I butchered that up. So it's basically like this, that Karen testified against the Scranton Strangler, which was this fan theory that Toby and that show is the Scranton Strangler, and she had to enter the witness protection program. And is there a better place to hide than rural town in the middle of Indiana? All right, so I'm going to go into more details about what I said again with the universe, and again about Ben Wyatt as far as the Friends episode. So it was episode 9 of Friends when Rachel Green is talking about how she doesn't sleep with men on the first date. So Monica lists the man she's broken this rule with, and among the names is Ben Wyatt. So Leslie Knope's husband and partner in crime. And it's been, as I mentioned, that he would have been in his 20s at the time. And then it goes on to say that this is a plausible reality. But, as I mentioned about the real details of it. So Ron Swanson is April Ludgate's real father. So the fan theory suggests that April's mom had a one-night stand with a local sax player after one of his gigs. That man was Ron Swanson, and then some could argue that April's younger sister disapproves this theory, but it's up in the air about this. And then there's a fan theory that suggests that Mark is dead. So, the theory suggests that after Anne dumped him, he became so severely depressed that he killed himself. The other characters never brought it up because the show is technically a documentary and they didn't want to mention his suicide out of respect. That's really it's really interesting how the aspects of fan theories can touch on the reality and the dark undertones of life, and how it dresses up the real reality of the situation, of the aspect of what can happen when choices can lead to, and what can happen out of that is what I'm leading to, what I'm trying to say there. So there's a fan theory that April Ludgate was abused by her parents. So the theory suggests that April's personality has to do with the fact that she and her sister were abused by their parents as children. This explains why April and her sister are agoraphobic, cruel, and manipulative. It's why April married a man completely unlike her within months of meeting him, and why April's sister and Andy had Andy arrested when he picked her up from work. Basically saying he was a pervert. It's also an important note that no one walked April down the aisle when she got married, proving a lesser and stellar relationship with her dad. I think that's quite interesting. As I mentioned before, I think that is one of those gray area things because, when you go, in the show, when you see April Ludgate and the rapport that her parents have, they seem like they're the kind of parents that are not aware of their own surroundings, and because of that brings up a barrier of a rift between their children because they can't really see things for what they are, and they only want to see what they want to see and see what they perceive, and being so let's see, I'm trying to search for the best way to say that, being so centered in their own reality and not being realistic, and being not being humbled enough, or just being too with a borderline, psychosis, and with the psychosis of being way too optimistic and not seeing the reality of the situation of how that's hurting your children. That is what I think is the underlining tone of why April Ludgate has the personality that she does, and her sister. They don't know how to be with their parents. They can't be honest with their parents because their parents only see them a certain way, and they want to reject what is obviously true about their children, and so it sends them deeper and deeper into a state of social angst, or with social, and to be antisocial, more along the lines of that. And I think that's really sad to say. It's not sad to say, it's just honest. It's just really sad that things like that happen. But I just think at the heart of the matter, that's what's really going on. Okay, and Leslie Knope is actually Tracy Flick from the film 1998 film Election. So it's a fan theory that suggests that Tracy lost her job in Washington, D.C. because of an affair similar to the one with her former teacher. This led to her to take a lowly position in a small town. Some plot lines between the pair conflict because it's definitely, something to consider about this. And it makes sense because of their personalities, and it seems like that's something that could be plausible. All right, so this reaches the end of the Heartbreaking Light. And of course, questions, comments, concerns is greatly appreciated. Please feel free to either reach me through email, either through Substack or Locals. All right, and if you have suggestions about things, it would be greatly appreciated too. Tune in, turn up, and absolutely take care. Bye-bye now.